thought it might be time to put together another compilation. So what I've assembled are my top 10 rarities, oddities, and anomalies that I've seen as I've been trackside over the last few years. Now, when I'm talking about anomalies, I'm not talking about something like a heritage unit leading, or something that's maybe a little bit rare, but it still happens every so often. What I'm really talking about are those one-offs, or those items that may happen to be a little extraordinary just because a serendipitous event brought two things together, or something was unusual about it. So that's what I've really tried to capture here. To start things off, I'm in Norfolk, Virginia, on September 16th, 2021. 821 is preparing to leave Lambert's Point, but instead of being a single or a double with some DPUs, it's actually a triple with DPUs. There's a pair of AC-44 C6Ms leading, an ET-44 AC, a Dash 9, and then I believe an ES-44 DC and another Dash 9 mid-train, about 100 cars back. NS seemed to have been experimenting with trains that were triple length. I believe this was maybe the second one this week, and actually not the longest by a few cars. But this was 1,312 axles, it was 319 cars, and 6 total motors. Here, I caught it at Princess Anne Avenue. Throughout 2020, Norfolk Southern had been sending scrap gondolas and hoppers from Lambert's Point west under the symbol 10X. Now, later this would transition to where these would be stuck on the front of, say, an empty hopper train, or on one of the intermodal trains headed west, they would put a block of these scrap gondolas and hoppers. Well, when we had symbol 10X for once or twice a month, however frequently they ran it, one of the ones that stuck out to me was one with 1804 and SD70 ACC leading. So that's at number 9. Number 8 is from my current location, on the CN Freeport subdivision. This was taken on December 23rd, 2022. I went to Buckby for an unknown eastbound move, and the wind chill outside was negative 20 degrees Fahrenheit. So I had difficulty starting the camera, stopping the camera, getting focus. It was really a challenge taking this shot. But it's a single SD60 running east to pick up cars that 337 had dropped the night before in the siding at Burlington due to issues bringing those west. Number 7 is from October 31st, 2021. This is NV21 leaving Lambert's Point with coal loads headed west. Now, that's what makes this unusual, right? Coal loads usually enter Lambert's Point and empties leave headed west. Well, this was a string of reclaimed coal, or bad order coal from my understanding. I'm not sure of the specifics on it, but we have a single SD40-2 headed west with a cut of loaded coal hoppers. This happened around midnight, so it's one of those moves where you hear the echo of the chimes as they in a quiet Norfolk. It was a really special move for me. Again, it was one of those that happened at kind of odd hours, so here you go. Number 6 is from March 9th, 2020. Here we see NV22 headed east into Lambert's Point. What makes this special is that one of the Norfolk International Terminal genset motors, number 1103, or NITX 1103, which was formerly a Norfolk Southern motor, and you can still see its logo on it, was leading, but not really leading the move. What additionally made this special was that they were retrieving a car from Batchelder and Collins, which was the only customer that was being serviced on the former Old Main headed into Lambert's Point. So here we catch them as they retrieve a car from Batchelder and Collins. Number 1103 is not powered, but the SD40-2 behind it is the one that's actually running. So it was a push-pull move. Number 5 is from August 14th, 2021. Typically, coal loads make it all the way to Lambert's Point with their original power. But sometimes, for whatever reason, they'll actually store loads outside of Lambert's Point in the storage tracks at Portlock Yard and Chesapeake. That's what happened here, except the original power didn't bring the run back to the east, back to Lambert's Point. What did happen, though, was a pair of SD40-2s left Lambert's Point and then spun the Y and retrieved the loads to bring it back. This was actually train 810, but it was being brought back to Lambert's Point under UL01. So what's special about this is that we have a pair of SD40-2s, one formerly of Norfolk and Western Heritage, one formerly of the Southern Railway Heritage, that led a loaded coal train into Lambert's Point, which was pretty unusual for the time. Number 4 is another one-off from the Freeport subdivision. An SD40-2W was leading grain empty G889 west on the Freeport sub. A pair of Norfolk Southern motors, typically road power, was behind it. So seeing an SD40-2W leading in 2022 on the Freeport sub main headed west at 50 miles per hour was pretty exciting. The following night, it actually brought M338 back east, and I caught that in Rockford at Morgan Street. Number 3 was from June 20th, 2019. Here we see NV22 headed east into Lambert's Point on the final stretch before they enter the yard. What's special about this is that an MP15E switcher is leading. Now, this was unusual for this run. Typically, a GP38-2 or an SD40-2 would lead. But in this particular case, I believe 2371 was the MP15E leading. Now, I didn't know this was happening, so the video that I have is in gorgeous 720p as I was live streaming it on Facebook at the time. So I wish I had higher quality video of this, but I'm just happy that I caught it because we do see it here moving between Granby and Llewellyn and Norfolk. Number 2 is from November 15th, 2020. Lambert's Point Yard sees its occasional maintenance of way move, or maybe a Herzog ballast train that goes around to release ballast through the yard and on the main. But what we have here is an S42N, which is a combination grain and coal train. Now what they had was loaded grain at the beginning, and then the second half was loaded coal. So what they did here was instead of dropping the grain train at Portlock and then bringing the rest to Lambert's Point, what they did was they brought the train through the yard with the grain loads on the front of the train and then dropped the coal in Lambert's Point yard and then took the grain loads back to Portlock. So there was some confusion about this move. They actually ran into another set of light units as they were headed east into the roundhouse at Lambert's Point. Made this really unusual, so it's a loaded grain train, 42N, headed west out of Lambert's Point to Portlock Yard. Number 1 is from June 12th, 2021. Here we see Norfolk Southern GP38-2, 5198, leading a set of coal empties away from Lambert's Point to Portlock Yard. What made this special was that 5198 is a high hood GP38-2 that just happened to be in the area and was not a common sight around Norfolk. Now, this was part of a PSR move where they were taking this cut of coal empties to be assembled with another train, an intermodal train, that was going to head the same direction. I believe it was 22A to Louisville. So here we have what would have basically been a unit empty, 817, being led by a high hood GP38-2 with its southern livery showing very boldly through its Norfolk Southern coat, down the main to Portlock Yard in Chesapeake.